Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Deborah Goldman. I am co-chair, along with Nina Lukin, of the Buffalo Jewish Community Relations Council, which is part of the Buffalo Jewish Federation. And I want to introduce everybody whose pictures you can see on the screen. Stephen Foreman, who is a graduating student from Buffalo School of Performing Arts. Congratulations. Great job. Mara Coven-Gelman, who is the director of the Buffalo Jewish, I don't have the title exactly correctly, who has pulled all of this together. Rachel Lyons, who is Valentino Dixon's art teacher. Michelle Augusto, who is the director of arts for the Buffalo Public Schools. Katie Ronzek, hopefully pronounced correctly, from the Jewish Community Center. Our star, Valentino Dixon, artist. And Mike Steckloff, who has pulled together all the tech for this event. So thanks to all of you. Thanks to everybody who is here. So I want to make a brief statement on behalf of the Jewish Community Relations Council and the Buffalo Jewish Federation. At this very sad time, we stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the African American community and mourn the senseless death of George Floyd. We stand in solidarity with the Black community that have long been targeted by police and have suffered rampant racism and unfair and uneven applications of law. My heart aches, as do most of yours who are people on this call. So, welcome to this special virtual event with Buffalo artist and criminal justice activist Valentino Dixon. Unfortunately, the timing couldn't be better, but Valentino was arrested for a murder he did not commit and exonerated after 27 years behind bars. Mr. Dixon's passion for art sustained him. During his many years in prison, Mr. Dixon created hundreds of intricate images, landscapes, portraits, and scenes of legendary golf courses. Before the pandemic, Mr. Dixon held his premier Buffalo exhibition at the Birchfield Penny Art Center. Originally, this event was to be part of an in-person exhibit at the Jewish Community Center on Delaware Avenue. Now we're fortunate, with the help of the Buffalo Public Schools, to be able to bring this to a larger audience through YouTube Live. It is our honor to work with Mr. Dixon and help highlight his powerful story of resilience, passion for art, and his message of changing mass incarceration through sentencing reform. Again, this is being done in partnership with Katie Ronzek from the Jewish Community Center Cultural Arts Department and Michelle Augusto from the Buffalo Public Schools Department of Art. I also want to thank student Stephen Foreman from the Buffalo Academy of Visual and Performing Arts, who will be a student moderator for this presentation. We thank our many funders, including the Goldman Philanthropic Fund and a grant from the New York State Council for Arts that make this event possible. Mara Coven-Gelman from the Jewish Community Relations Council and Mike Steckloff from the Buffalo Jewish Federation have really, and the Buffalo Public Schools, have been incredibly important to make this work. It wouldn't happen without them. So the event is going to work this way. Mr. Dixon will give his message, and then Stephen will ask him questions prepared by students. If you, the viewers, have a question, please post it in the chat, and we will relay the questions to Valentino as long as time allows. Valentino Dixon, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Can you hear me good?
You can hear you great, and now you will be privileged to hear you speak and watch you draw for about 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a session of Draw and Talk with me, where I take my show everywhere. Hold on, I guess this is going out. Can you guys see me? Because my screen is blank.
Yes, we can see you.
I can see
Okay,
you.
my screen went
see you.
blank. I don't know what was going on. Okay. A couple months ago, I did a show at Buffalo State University, and the issue was on racial justice in America. And we drew this image right here because I wanted to get everyone's perspective, white and black, on how we could fix this problem in America. No one knew that we would be in the position that we're in right now. So today I would like to draw a heart, okay? Because it's going to take hearts to fix this problem, black and white. So instead of these hands of solidarity here, I want to draw a brown heart and sort of a Caucasian color of a heart right here. I just want to draw something, but the dialogue is going to be the most important thing here today. And you guys can ask me anything. As you know, I've spent 27 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. Some say I drew myself out of prison. Our system is not designed or equipped to give a poor person a fair trial. And it took me many years to realize that it would be my artwork that would have to help me get justice in my case. So I drew up to 10 hours a day, 365 days a year, the last 20 years of my incarceration. Out of the 27 years, I spent 25 of those years in Attica, which is one of the worst prisons in New York State. By the grace of God, a strong faith, my artistic ability, I kept hope alive, and I'm able to be here with you guys today to share my message. And I believe together we can, help make the system more fair, just, and equal, and the world a better place as a whole. So I'm just waiting for anybody to ask me anything that they like. Anybody?
Hey, Valentino.
Yes.
This one question comes from an 8th grader from Performing Arts.
Okay.
And they asked, when did you start your artwork? This comes from Daniel C.
I started drawing at the age of 3 years old, and it was a passion of mine. And I was accepted into performing arts in the 8th grade, to all the way to my senior year. I went, and there were many years where I had abandoned the talent. I got distracted, and I didn't start drawing until after 7 years of being incarcerated. So I went about 10 years without drawing.
Gotcha.
Okay, yep. I went about 10 years without drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And while sitting in that 6x8 prison cell, my uncle said to me, he says, if you can reclaim your talent, you can reclaim your freedom. And it was those words that resonated in my mind that gave me the inspiration to get off my butt, as they would say, and started drawing.
Okay. Very cool. Real quick, there's a shout out coming from T Rose. She commented, my students at School 48 at MLK loved Mr. Dixon's work at the Birchfield Penny Gallery. I'm so excited that you have the opportunity to watch this today, or that we have the opportunity to watch this today. Thank you so much for this. Hi, students. So that's a shout out from 48.
Also, is that 48, is that on High Street?
I'm not too sure.
Because I went to School 39 MLK on High Street, and I would love to go back and speak to their students.
Michelle says yes, or Mrs. Gusto says yes.
Ask her to reach out afterwards, because I would love to come visit the school and speak to the students.
Will do.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, this one comes from this one comes from Michelle Schroeder. And they asked, how often do you draw, or did you draw in prison?
I drew up to 10 hours a day, 365 days a year, the last 20 years straight. And I accumulated over 900 drawings. And all of these drawings that you see here were done in the 6x8 prison cell, including this one right here. This is a famous golf course in Japan called Hirano. So it's all color pencils, nothing else.
Very nice, very nice. I'm sure people also want to know what inspired you to create artwork about golf courses as well. So,
Well, you're coming from the inner city. I never golfed before. I didn't know anything about the
right,
sport. Okay. I was known as the artist in Attica because everyone knew that this is what I did with my time, including the warden. So he comes by one day, he says, "Hey, Valentino, could you draw my favorite golf hole?" Which was this right here. This is Augusta, which is the famous golf hole in America, one of the most famous golf holes. And he asked me to draw this golf course. Of course, it was foreign to me. I drew it for him anyway. He loved it. Another guy said I need to draw more golf holes. It made no sense. They brought me some old Golf Digest magazines, kind of forced it on me. And hold on, I got to decline this call. Okay. And they tried to force it on me, which eventually it turned out good because I started drawing golf courses every day. Made no sense. And I started liking to draw the golf courses. And after about 6 months, I think I had accumulated maybe about 40 golf courses, 40 golf drawings. And I wrote a 3-page letter to the Golf Digest magazine explaining my situation. And they couldn't believe what I was telling them, and they actually came to the prison and visited me. And in July 2012, published an article about my wrongful conviction and my artistic ability. From there, the Golf Channel came and they did an interview at Attica, which was nominated for Emmy Award in 2014.
awesome.
Okay, yes, and from there, I got a lot of exposure, and Georgetown came on board, and it eventually helped me help to exonerate me.
Very cool. Very
So this
cool.
is how the whole golf thing came. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
you can make this stuff up. It's just crazy.
Right, right. Very imaginative.
All right, so let's get the drawing a little bit. I'm gonna do my first heart. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. And the reason I say first heart, because we're gonna do more than one. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see this heart that I did. I don't know if it's clear enough, but I'm gonna go on the edges and go from dark to light, and I'm gonna shade until all the dark edges are, all the edges are dark, and the middle is gonna be light. Okay. Steve, you can ask me any questions also while I draw.
Gotcha. I didn't want to distract you from drawing. I'm sorry.
That's why it's called Draw and Talk with me, because I can do both.
Gotcha.
In fact,
Okay.
in prison, I would draw for many hours with guys constantly coming to my cell to talk about various issues. Because I also did a lot of reading. I read close to 1,000 books in prison. Everything from real estate, history, business, self-help, autobiographies, name it. I've read all those great books, which allowed me to be able to kind of guide the other inmates. I taught the guys how to get their GED, and just to help them kind of change their mind state about themselves and how they could be productive citizens into society once they are released.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so while we're drawing, I am Kirkwood asked, what mediums do you use and what size paper do you draw on?
Okay.
There are a couple of questions about like the
mediums I use. The only pencils I use is Prismacolor. Okay, and I've went through hundreds of these things. In fact, give me 1 second. I want to show you guys something. These are just some of the hundreds of pencils that I went through while I was in prison. I have a whole bunch of these jars. So I keep them because I run them all the way down to the littlest nub.
Sheesh.
Okay, so this is about, I have 20 years of colored pencils. This is just a little here, right here.
Very cool. Very cool.
And the paper that I use Bristol board or Canson boards. These are what you call Canson boards. They come in 20 by 30 and 16 by 20. And these were the largest that I could have in prison. So I wanted to do a mural one time of a golf course. So I took 9 of these boards and I put together like a puzzle. It wouldn't even fit in my cell when I was done with it. The officers allowed me to take it outside of the cell so I could put it on their floor and sketch it out. 9 boards, just connected them like a puzzle.
Gotcha. And how did you come to acquire these types of materials whilst in prison? You know, some
Well,
people
I had family
have
order
questions
from me.
about that.
Family ordered them from me online. Okay, at a place called Dick Blick. So every couple months I will order maybe 50, 60 pencils. Because some of the colors I didn't need to reorder. I could order single pencil colors.
Right. Very.
But they do have 120 set, 78 sets, 48 sets, stuff like 24 sets and 12 set pencils.
Connie Barlow asked, well, she started off with, I love the portrait with the animals. Can you tell us what the image represents? I believe she's talking about the one to your right.
Right. Well, I just came up with this idea that I wanted to draw Afrocentric because I did so many golf courses. So I wanted to go back to my roots and draw something Afrocentric. And so this is what I came up with. This is the first one I did, where I kind of drew like a woman with all of your animals that you see in that part of the region. Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then I turned around and did a part 2 with a different type of animal. You got the cheetah, zebra, of course, the lion, the gorilla, the giraffe, elephant, and I kind of got creative down here and put some zebra stripes down here. Yeah.
Alrighty, this question comes from Mrs. Burton's art students from International Public School 45. This one comes from Anaya P. And she's a 6th grader. She asked, where do you get your ideas from?
I get my ideas from anywhere. National Geographic magazines, where I'll see an image and I'll never draw the image as is. I'll take it and I'll either add to it or take away from it, but I'll make it an original based on my artistic vision for whatever piece it is. Some pieces I just do off the top of my head without even looking at an image. Okay, but before I can start a picture, I must have a vision of or an idea of what I want to draw. Okay, I have to see it in my brain before I could actually put it, the sketch down. Because if I don't see it clearly in my brain, then 9 out of 10 times it's not going to come out the way I would like it to come out. I won't be as satisfied with the piece as if I knew I can kind of see the end result before it's even laid out, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Anybody else, Stephen?
Yeah, Eleanor Byrne asked, I see symbolism in your work. What is the most often used symbolism used in your work?
You know what? I ain't everywhere when it comes to my artwork. You know, like here, for example, I have a, what is these called? It's not a parrot.
A toucan?
A toucan. There it is. You know, so I mean, my artist just takes me everywhere. You know, some of them have a hidden message, some of them don't. I try to draw images that I think are vibrant, are exciting, that have life to them. You know, because I was in a dark place and prison is designed to break your spirit. know, I always took my brain outside of prison to draw my images. You know, a lot of guys in there would draw people sitting behind bars, those type of images that symbolize the pain that they were going through in prison, you know. And in order to keep my spirit in a good place, I always drew the fantasy type life that I visioned for myself in the time or the day that I would be released. So here's my first heart right here. Okay.
Looking awesome.
So I'm gonna go over this heart with a brown. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Speaking of the prison pieces that you were talking about, some people asked, like, how does your work go on to talk about like social, like current events happening, such as like the injustices happening to many African Americans in the community with police brutality and stuff like that. Like a lot of people are asking, does your work have social commentary, or do you feel like art can be a means to bring awareness to social issues?
Oh, most definitely. I don't think any of my work symbolizes the problems that we're having in America, especially in regards to racism, discrimination, bias, and prejudice. Just to be honest, okay. But I use my voice to express how I feel inside, okay. And my art expresses a whole different type of joy and love and unity, okay. But it's my voice that I use to speak to people and to offer a strategy and a practical solution rather than a radical action or a radical solution.
Okay.
But I do have a solution for police brutality in America. And that is that we set up national hotlines across the country. Okay, whether it's through the NAACP or other organizations that fight against brutality, social injustice, etc. Okay, that you set up a hotline, because these officers that commit these crimes are officers that more than likely violate people's rights every day, but do not get reported. Okay, this guy, I'm certain, that put his leg on Mr. Lloyd's neck, I'm certain that he has done many things to other people, but it was never reported. Okay. Right. And once an officer is reported, then if they have too many complaints, then they should be kicked off the force before they kill someone. Okay. Another solution is that you check into each officer's history. You go back to their high school. You interview people that knew this person. Okay. Because you can't train a bad heart. And that's just the reality here. You can't train a bad heart. What type of person was this person in high school, you know, growing up? Interview people just to find out, you know, because you have people joining a force that have bad motives and their intentions is not good, you know. And if you're not going to do a thorough background check, then this is how you allow the wrong people that's supposed to protect and serve a society. So we definitely need a national hotline where people can say, hey, I was pulled over by this police and he was very abusive, et cetera, et cetera. Because, you know, citizens need to know that you don't react then. You allow the officer to do whatever it is that they're doing so you can get away safely. Then you go and you make a report against this officer. This is how I was able to avoid the abuse of guards in Attica. Okay. Whenever I would find myself in a bad situation, I would not mouth off. I would not say anything crazy to him because I already knew what would happen. But what I would do is I would file a complaint afterwards. Sure, it put me in some type of danger, but it also covered me to a certain extent. They left me alone after that, you know, because I had a paper trail.
Right.
And then we need lawyers to get involved.
Mhm.
Okay. Martin Luther King, you know, he was always out in the forefront, but he had a ton of lawyers in the background working things. Okay. We need lawyers where a lawyer can file a civil action against an abusive officer before this officer kills somebody. And that's, you know, I think that's the only solution here, or the best solution, put it that way.
Most definitely. That was awesome. So hopping off of that point of injustice, many people want to know as well, like what was the crime supposedly that you committed in order for you to be in jail and to experience the injustice through the system
Okay.
as well?
I was charged with murder. Okay. I was at a place hanging out, and a shootout took place. I jumped in my car, pulled off, and was pulled over shortly thereafter, pulled over and taken into custody. Okay. And they were certain that they had the right person. 2 days later, they realized that they didn't have the right person. And 7 witnesses came forth to clear me of the crime. And the person that committed the crime confessed to the crime. And all of them were disregarded, and all of them were kicked out of the police station and told to go on about their business. I couldn't afford a good attorney. I went to trial. My court-appointed attorney didn't call any of the witnesses or introduce the confession to the jury, and I was given 40 years.
That's wild. I'm sorry, I just got rattled by that.
That's all right.
Coming off of that as well, like I'm sure you felt like a lot of disrespect from just the system at play and what everything going on at the moment. But did you feel like people respected you in prison while you were doing your own passion, like just going about like just drawing and not just staying out of trouble, like knowing that you were innocent and like having every right to just rash out and, you know, be angry about certain stuff? Did people like respect you and how you were doing stuff in prison, such as like just drawing and whatnot, and
Well,
minding your own?
well, the entire time I was in prison, I was a model prisoner. I had never been in solitary confinement. Okay. And for the first 7 years, I can say I was not really productive because I was stressed out all the time and I slept a lot, you know, and I was in a state of depression. Okay. But my faith started growing, and family support helped pull me out of that. And once I got it started, there was no turning back. I knew that God had a plan and a purpose for me. Okay. And so what I did was through my artwork and through my studies, I lifted other people's spirits. Okay. I looked throughout history and I seen the pain and the suffering, whether it was people living their whole lives as a slave, you know, being born into slavery and dying a slave, or the Jews being killed and tortured during the Holocaust. Okay. There's people that survive these things. So who am I? All of us is going to be challenged with something in life. Mine was a 27-year challenge. Okay. For somebody else, it could be the loss of a loved one. They might feel like they can't continue to live another day. Everybody's different. So my message is that no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what you're going through, right, you can overcome it and you can survive it. So my goal eventually, as time went on in the prison system, was to be that voice and be that voice of hope, you know. And when I started doing interviews, TV interviews in prison, because I did a ton of them before I was released, you know, I gave hope to so many guys, and I give hope to them right now because I have about 20 guys that I write. I've been back to visit these guys. They can call me on the phone, you know, and I'm their only hope for good time. These guys, some of them have 40 years in on a 20-year sentence because the parole board refuses to release them because the parole board has to have the numbers up in order to keep jobs. So it's not about justice anymore. It's about job security and investments and other opportunities for a certain class of people, you know. And my job is to make it clear enough for the American people to understand what prison reform really means and what it entails and what we need to do here. Because prison, you know, is devastating to minorities and it's beneficial to whites. And this is just the reality, you know. And it's the reason why we have over 2.3 million people in prison. No other country in the world has this many prisoners. China has a population 8 times our size and only have 1 million prisoners. We have 2.3 million prisoners. We have 49,000 people doing life without parole in America compared to just 55 people in Wales and England. Something is wrong with this picture. And my message is to appeal to Congress and say, you know, where's the humanity? Where's your hearts? This is why I chose to draw a heart today, because it's important that, and I believe we all have hearts, because nobody is perfect, okay? And Congress and the politicians, you know, they're human like anybody else. Sometimes they just don't see clearly. And it's my job and others' job, people's job, that's fighting for social justice, prison reform, to end mass incarceration, to end police brutality, is to paint the picture so clear to Congress and into the American people that change has to come immediately, not later.
Most certainly. Speaking of the, you know, the incarceration system benefiting off of the African American population, Lorraine Vo wants to know, how was your painting published while you were in jail? Like, how did, I assume she wants to know, like, how did you benefit from being benefited from whilst in the incarceration system?
Well, what happened was, after the Golf Digest got involved, then the Golf Channel, then there was a triple down effect for Associated Press, you know, other companies came inside the prison. I did documentaries for small film companies. So you can actually go, and a good one to see would be Breaking the Cycle, where these people came from Norway, Denmark, and Finland, and they compared their criminal justice system to ours. It is no comparison, you know. For a 10-year sentencing law over here in the US for the same offense, over there is a year or 2 years for the same offense, you know. So they just passed this bail reform thing, but it doesn't matter if you're going to give a person 10 years for an offense that they should get maybe 2 years for. You know, the sentencing laws are too outrageous and they violate our 8th Amendment to the Constitution against cruel and unusual punishment. That's the issue here. And this is what people need to focus on when they think about mass incarceration. You know, like I said, I know a guy that has 47 years in on a 20-year sentence. I know another guy that was given 50 years for 2 burglaries, nonviolent. Okay, and the list goes on and on. You know, and these sentencing laws should be banned. You know, and this is how you make the system more fair, just, and equal for everyone. Because if I'm going to give you an example. If Black men were going off to college and landing good jobs, and young white men were going off to prison, you can't imagine that, because it would be a state of emergency. The problem would get fixed immediately. All right, there's my second color.
Awesome. Okay,
and I'm going to go in with another color over this.
Gotcha. Real quick, Valentino.
Yes.
So Pristina in Nugan, I'm sorry if I misrepresented or mispronounced your name. I'm so sorry. We made Valentino our Artist of the Month at our school before quarantine started. Very interesting to see these questions and answers live. They just wanted to appreciate you and your work.
And I appreciate them for watching.
Mm-hmm. All righty.
Anybody else, Stephen?
Yes. Renee O has asked a question. Has he ever visited the courses that he's drawn? And how long does it take you to finish one drawing?
They vary. Okay. Some of my smaller drawings, let me go and grab some of these smaller drawings right quick. Hold on. I started out drawing small golf course drawings, a ton of them. I think I did about 150 of these.
Very cool. Very cool. What size was that piece?
These are 7x9.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Some of them I just made off the top of my head. Actually, a lot of them I did. Once I started going, I didn't even need images no more. This is one of my favorite right here. Okay. Then I went to, hold on one second.
Very cool. Very cool.
Then I went from 7x9 to 16x20. This is a made-up course.
Now, when you say made up course, so did you like practice so much that like you were able to recall certain elements from drawings that you did previously in order to like
Yes.
combine them? Okay, cool.
Yes. If you sit and draw hundreds of golf courses, you don't need to look at any images after that.
Right. And how long
make
did you
them up.
think? How long do you think that took you, like for you to start imagining them, like without?
It took me about a
using
year.
reference? Okay.
It took me about a year, you know. And so I have visited some of the most famous courses that I've drawn. I've even spoke at these places in the last, because I've only been out of prison 18 months. So I went to Augusta last year to the Masters where I met Tiger Woods, and I told him he would win the Masters before he actually won. And I got that on my phone. Okay. I went to Pebble Beach. It's another famous golf course, twice and spoke. And a few other ones that I went to.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So we have.
I
more,
even went to this one.
oh.
Let me just say this.
Sorry. Yep.
I even went to this right here, which is in Mexico. It's called the Tail of the Whale, because when the tide is high, you can't get on this hole right here. Okay. So I had to walk through the water to get on this hole. I actually golfed on this hole in Mexico. Okay. And it's called the Tail of a Whale because you'll see whales out there every once in a while jumping up. Very beautiful place.
Very cool. Now we have a couple more questions about your prison life.
Okay.
So from I am Kirkwood again. What is the hardest thing you had to get used to once you got out of prison?
Nothing. I didn't get, it's crazy with me because I lived in a fantasy world. Whereas I made it my business. I made a conscious decision to stay up to date with everything. Okay. Whether it was reading magazines, whether it was watching the television stations that they allowed us to have, and speaking to the guards, speaking to the inmates who just came in. I need to know, why should I get the iPhone over the Galaxy? You know, what does what? You know, just staying in tune, because I didn't want to be stuck in 1991. I refused to allow that to happen. You know, knowing the mentality of the public. How do people think in society now? Okay. It's just no different than what's going on right now with the COVID-19. Okay. People's lives have changed drastically, and they're doing things differently. Not everybody, but for the most part, most people. And, you know, it's a lifestyle change. You're going to adjust to everything accordingly on what you need to survive. Okay. And I stayed out here with you guys. I was out on the beach. I was eating good food in my brain. So when I walked out of prison, I was not in a state of shock, because I paid attention to whether it was the cars, the clothing, the technology, the mentality, the people, everything. You know, I was, you know, in my brain, I need to have a PhD from everything from A to Z. I need to have a PhD, and I have plenty of time in this jail cell to accumulate all of this knowledge and information that I may need to be successful in this world. Okay. So even walking out, in studying art history, art sales, galleries in New York City, etc. I had my first show in New York City, and they were telling me, you're not going to sell this work for this amount of money. And I says, I am going to sell it for this amount of money. And I shocked all of them. Okay. And the gallery owner, who's a very wealthy guy, says, I should be working for you.
I know that's right. That's awesome.
Because to be honest with you, I take things personal in the sense that I'm not supposed to know what I know. I'm a Black kid from the inner city. I'm supposed to be like, you just get out of jail for 27 years. We're gonna have to hold your hand, and we're gonna have to help you out in so many different ways. I refuse to be handicapped. I refuse to allow that to happen to me. That's just this morning I was looking at a restaurant to open, a building to open up a restaurant I'm gonna open. They said, why are you gonna open a restaurant? Because I need to have multiple streams of income. Okay. And in 60 days, I'm gonna have a restaurant open.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
A lot of people don't understand it, but hey, I follow my intuition. And hey, I'm a very good cook, and I know how to put stuff together.
Awesome. Nothing stopping this guy right here. Awesome, awesome. Speaking of stopping, so Lorraine Vo asked also, did any officers ever tell you to stop drawing while you were in prison? Did they ever tell you to stop drawing or stop what you're doing? Or did they encourage it at all? Or
well, once I started drawing, I wasn't even noticed really. They knew I drew. They knew it, but they didn't really never pay attention to what I was drawing until I started drawing the golf courses. Then I had officers that actually would hear about the golf course drawings from another part of the jail. They didn't even work over in the area that I was housed in. And would actually walk over to see what the golf drawings looked like, what all the rave was about. And so I'm going to say that 80% of the staff supported me all the way. And the other 20% that didn't support it, I knew, kind of felt the energy, okay? And I always remained humble, and I never got beside myself, put it that way, okay? Because I knew that the goal here was to walk out of prison with as much artwork as possible. So if I go to solitary or get locked up or get into any trouble, all that ends. I lose my art supplies, everything. Okay. I had one officer say, yeah, Dixon, when I search your cell, I'm going to make sure I break all your colored pencils. And he was partly serious and he was partly joking, but I just laughed it off, but yeah, I had my challenges, but it was like playing chess, and being smart at all times, because one mistake in there just changes everything. Okay. And it's no different out here in society. You can make one mistake out here and ruin your life, especially for a Black man in America. We don't get too many chances,
Right. Michelle Schroeder wants to know how do you compare your first drawings to where you are now?
You want to see one of my first drawings? Hold on.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Very cool. I hope everybody's enjoying the drawing talk right now. Can't wait to see everybody's drawings as well. Hope everybody's drawing along as well.
Okay, I'm back. So here's actually one of my first drawings. Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay.
Mhm.
I just started drawing shapes and kind of put it together, like, and didn't know where I was going with this thing. Just started drawing and shading. My strength has always been in my shading. Okay. So then I started drawing flower scenes. I was kind of like, being safe, put it that way. Because I hadn't drawn in almost 10 years. So it was like, I can just take it easy and just ease my way into the artistic, life.
Right. I know a couple people from the audience as well as myself wanted to know what are your favorite paintings at that time that like inspired you, as well as like any artists that were inspiring you to do these types of images.
Well, flowers was a big thing for me, and it's Indians and horses. I did a lot of these because my uncle, he sent me my first art supplies, and he lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And this is the big thing down there with their culture. Okay. Then as years went on, I started making the drawings look like a painting. Okay, where I start layering colors on top of colors. Okay.
Very cool.
Like right here. Now this is some 20 years later. Okay.
Yeah.
Picture of Oprah.
Were there any, right? Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any artists like that affected the way you wanted to like make your art into like looking like a painting, even though you were using the medium of colored pencils?
Well, no. Well, the thing is this. We had a hard time getting painting materials in Attica. There was so many regulations. We couldn't have the wood pieces to the canvas. We couldn't have oil paints, but we could have acrylic. We couldn't have the size of brushes that we need, but we could have these two brushes. So I turned to the colored pencils because I didn't have no regulations with colored pencils. I could have 500 pencils. Nobody paid attention to that. So the easiest way for me was to just stick with the colored pencils and layer the colors on top of each other. Through trial and error, I learned a lot of different techniques, and just make this drawing look like a painting instead of a drawing.
Right. Real quick, Suzanne MB wanted to tell you that this is the first time I have felt uplifted in almost a week. Thank you. You are inspiring.
Wow. I'm glad.
Right.
I'm glad I can help. Anybody else, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to give you
That's all right.
a good question. So Cheyenne, Roncone wanted to ask, can you describe the intensity of that drive to create artwork and what got you here?
Well, the thing is in life, right? Everyone has some type of ability or talent that they can utilize to not only express themselves, but to be great in this world. Okay. When I look at the gymnast that trains 5 hours a day for the Olympics, or Kobe Bryant shooting 1,000 jump shots, to perfect his game, or Bill Clinton saying that he studied 5 hours a day while he's in college. Okay. And Bill Gates' journey, we all have a journey, and we have to figure out what it is that our journey is going to be. So once we do that, then we have to go hard. We have to dig in, to be the best that we can be. There can't be no slacking, and this is what motivates me to be one of the best, but not just like with Muhammad Ali. He was called the greatest for a reason. Not just because he was great in the ring, but he was great outside the ring. He was a lover of mankind. He could travel the world. He was the most recognized person on the planet. And he started out as being one of the most hated people, but before he died, he was one of the most beloved people on the planet. Okay. because people came to realize that the things that he said was not said out of anger, was not said out of hate. It was said, was said because his heart was hurting, and he wanted justice for all people. And he loved all people. There was not a racist bone in his body. You can see how him and Howard Cosell got along, in their old interviews. So my mission in life is to be able to touch as many people as possible, whether it's through the artwork or whether it's through my voice. This is why I came up with this show called Draw and Talk with Me. I've been traveling, speaking since I've been out, and I've met a lot of famous people, influential people, people who have really accomplished things in their life, and I started to say, hey, would you come on my Draw and Talk with Me show? And nobody ever said no. So my first guest was a Hall of Fame football player, Rondé Barber, and then my second guest was a Hall of Fame bull rider, a black guy. He broke the 1982 world record for riding a bull, and then I go and I interview a homeless person, because I know that everyone has a story, and I believe everyone has an artistic ability. It's my job to bring it out in them. I've had a heart doctor on my show. I've taught 20 people that has Parkinson's disease how to draw. So I believe this is a show that America needs, and I'm just waiting on a network to be smart enough to say, hey, we got to have this show, because I have over 30 episodes. And I try to make sure that my show is informative and that people learn something from it, and then it's not so serious where they're not going to smile. I'm going to make you smile about something before the episode is up. I did a show with 2 women that lost their sons to homicides. These women were crying, but before the show was over with, I had them drawing a dove, because the dove represents peace, and this is what we need in this world. So hey, I'm just trying to do my part.
Very much so, very much so. This next question comes from, once again, Miss Burton's art students. This one comes from a 5th grader, and he asks, how do you have the patience to, I'm gonna add on to the question, but like, how do you have the patience to, organize these type of things? Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the patience when I was younger. Okay. When I was at Performing Arts, there were so many days that I didn't complete my projects. All right. And I just took it for granted. I had the talent. I get around to that when I feel like it. Some of them I just never got around to completing, and I blew my shot to get a scholarship to a good art university. My teacher told me this. She was upset with me, Miss Smith. She said, you could have gotten to any one of these schools, and so I kind of lost my way. So while sitting in a 6x8 prison cell, I said, you know what? You don't have no discipline and no patience. You haven't drawn in 8 years, 9 years. What's going on with you? You're not doing anything. So I became frustrated with myself, and then I became motivated. So now I developed the patience to sit down and draw for 12 hours a day if I needed to. And if you want to be great or exceptional in this world, that's what it's going to take.
Awesome, very inspirational. I believe that is the last question we'll have for you, Mr. Valentino. Thank you so much for just answering all of these questions. I'm sorry to everyone who I've missed with the questions. I'm sure we could always ask these questions at a later Draw and Talk. So once again, thank you so much, Mr. Dixon.
Let me show you this heart. I'm not done with it, but it's coming along.
Yeah,
Very
thank you
nice.
so much.
Very nice.
Do you have any other hearts that we can see? Anybody else drew along, and everybody's just listening? It's all good if you didn't.
I don't know that we can show them at this moment. Hopefully we can figure out another
Maybe we can
way.
post them up online.
But thank you so much, Mr. Dixon, for your message, passion, and dedication, showing us the transformative power of art. And I want to repeat one thing that you said. You said so many wonderful things. No matter what you're going through, you can overcome it and survive it. You can be the voice of hope. So thank you for that, and for continuing to advocate for change in the mass incarceration system. Thank you, Stephen Foreman, a graduating senior, yay, for the Buffalo Academy for Visual and Performing Arts. And what is your medium? Can you tell us?
I work in a couple different mediums, marker, color pencil sometimes, although not as good as Mr. Dixon's work. I try to dabble in paint, pencil, marker, ink, try to dabble in everything, digital nowadays too. So thank you so much for the shout out, by the way.
Well, you did a fabulous job, and thank you to everybody, particular Mara Coven-Gelman, who pulled all of this together. And Mike Steckloff. I don't want to keep thanking too many. I don't want to forget anybody, so please feel thanked. And Michelle Augusto, Director of Arts from the Buffalo Public School, is going to share some thoughts and thanks before we end.
Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate it. Valentino, I think I speak for all of us when I say that this has been one of the most honest and thought-provoking and inspiring collaborations that I've been involved in. So I want to thank you for that.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for having us. Sharing your personal story with all of us was profoundly moving. And the research that I have is powerful. With the recent tragedy of Mr. George Floyd's unnecessary death and the subsequent protests and riots that we have seen in so many cities, including right here in our city of Buffalo, your words and reflections resonate in a very deep and real way. It reminds me that we all have lots of work to do. We need to start seriously checking ourselves. We have to start caring about one another. We can do this by being courageous, by speaking up when we witness prejudice, bigotry, ignorance, hatred, intolerance, bullying, and general indifference or apathy. Some may choose to do this by protesting, but we can also do this through the arts, using our creative instincts and talents to demand social justice. So Mr. Dixon, you're a man who has proven that, and I want to thank you for doing that for us today and sharing that story.
Thank you.
Again, Ms. Deborah Goldman, no one thanked you, so I'm going to thank you for helping to introduce everyone. And a huge shout out for our Stephen Foreman, who is a senior graduating this year. He may not be walking down an aisle, but this is pretty awesome. So thank you, Stephen. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Deep appreciation to Mara and to Katie, who reached out to me and included the Buffalo Public Schools to be part of this powerful collaboration. Couldn't have done any of this without you, and so happy that we've connected to Mr. Dixon. I feel like we may have some other plans in the way, Mr. Dixon. I don't know.
That's all right. Call me up. Let me know.
And a big shout out to Mike, the tech person, Mike Steckloff, who helped us out because we definitely couldn't have done it without you. Last thing I want to say is a big thank you to all of our students, our Buffalo Public School students and Western New York students, our teachers, families, and friends who watched and sent questions. Your questions are great. And for all the BPS students, I know Valentino wants to see this. I know some of you were drawing while you were listening to him. So we want to make sure you post those pictures when you're done. We could put them on Facebook on this event page, or you can do it on the BPS Department of Arts Facebook page. And you can hashtag Valentino Dixon, you could hashtag BPS Artworks, and you could hashtag JCC. So we all will find a way to get to those images. We would like to celebrate those.
Definitely.
And make sure you find the link. The link is shareable, so I know we'll get that out to you. And again, to everyone involved in this, and everyone should show their face again so that we can celebrate everyone who participated in this great event. I want to thank on behalf of this whole team here, this awesome team. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Dixon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Valentino.
Thank you.
All right, Stephen, Mara. Okay.
And thanks, Rachel and Katie.